Greetings to all you people out there. I'm Unlisted Fanatic. I'm a Belgian dub producer. Some of you might know my music. In the past I worked with artists such as Linville Thompson and Earl 16. I've got plenty of music out there on all the sorts of platforms. So check it out on Spotify, Bandcamp, YouTube, whatever. Also there are plenty of vinyls to be bought. So check out your favorite record store and maybe you find something from mine. Last couple of years, my focus was directed to my live sets, where we gave birth to the UFO Collective, which is me in the Moonshine Horns and Marija, who play a live gig. But with the UFO Collective, we'll take a step beyond the usual and open other realm, where we also add influences from Afro, jazz and other types of world music. In this format, we played with gigs all over Europe, International Dub Gathering in Spain, of course the Tour Festival, Zion Station in Italy. All that led to the release of a couple of our Afro dub tracks, which were doing really well on the Dubquake Records label that you might know from OBF. So last summer I was approached by Reggae Geel to host a workshop on production and on mixing of dub music, so that I would explain for the basics on how you would go about making a rhythm and doing the mixing and all the aspects that come about. So I grabbed the opportunity and did that. I think it was a nice workshop for an hour and a half. A lot of people attended. I had a lot of questions and also I had a lot of requests afterwards. I didn't see the whole workshop. When will you do it again? Or I didn't saw it, even people online. I wish I could have visited. So that's what we're doing here. We're recording or recreating this workshop. And I'd like to thank the kind people from Dubwave sound system. They have experience in this sort of things, in streaming and blogging, and they're helping me to record this and set this up. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you helping me. Before we get started, I'd like to mention though, what I present is a way, not the way to do things, it's my way, it's how I do it. I'm not an authority on production, I just learned from experience and collaboration with other people, visiting studios, the internet, reading things in magazines in the past, even books and stuff like that. People seem to enjoy what I do and seem to like my sound. So I go about that, and that's why I do this workshop, because I feel I can help people. People often reach out and send me tracks, beginning artists, to get some tips. So if you have some questions, feel free to ask questions. If you have comments or even remarks, if you agree to disagree, just post them in the comments below. I'm very happy about that. But please keep it civil and positive. We all do this for the good vibes. So that's why we do it. So without further ado, let's get going. So what are we going to be looking at? I'm going to show you a track with our singer Marija on lead vocals and featuring the Moonshine Horns. It's one of the tracks we play on sound system, but also when we're on stage in the UFO Collective. And it's usually by the end of our set, because it's more the heavier side of dub, a little bit more of the like a guidance tune, meditation vibes in the bass line. So I'm going to play a little part of it so you have an idea what it is about.
Your troubles away. It makes me feel fine. It makes me wanna stay. Musically, we are grooving every day. People come and get the. Can you feel the energy? Yes, we move it in a style. We move it to be free. Giving your strength for your mind and body. Feel the connection between you and me.
So feel the connection between you and me. That's what we're going to create here, to do a little bit of connection. The track goes on. It's called Celebration Time. I'm setting it up to be released on a vinyl, but with the waiting time in the pressing plans, I doubt it will land before the summer, so it'll be after the summer. But how did this track come about? Just a small brief history before I go break it down. It was actually made for the first time in 2016, which is already way ago. And I made it on the 1st of January, so I titled it First of the Year. It was, or the basis of the idea came then. We came from a family gathering and there was some time, so I visited the studio late and I started making the track. And I'll give you a small, brief snippet of it. So you can grab, it's a lot darker, a lot moodier than what a celebration time is now. Even though the basis of the track is the same, all the elements are already there. Of course, I did more work on the mix, more experience by that time. But what I wanted to show is sometimes things take time and you don't need to rush yourself. You need to take your time. And even though it was made in the first instance in 2016, it got picked up again by ourselves in 2022 when I played at Reggae Geel festival. I had some time left in the set and I was like, oh shit, I'm running out of tracks. So I decided to throw on a little bit of a meditation moment in the dance before we went into the end section. Maraja was chanting on it and Moonshine Horns were playing on it. They didn't remember the track from earlier, so we decided let's upgrade it, make it more musical, write a vocal to it, add horns piece, and I wanted to make it like a bit of an epic piece with the long intro, and that's where it came about. So it might be old to you, but if people don't know it, it will still be new when it comes fresh to their ears. That's sort of the message that I want to give. So how do I go about it? Usually when I start off, more than often I start from drums, and sometimes I might have an idea for a bass line, or I might even have a melody in my head, or I might have an idea for drums. Sometimes I just sit down and start with a couple of sounds and have it going. In this case, I'll probably just have started searching some sounds, put on the metronome, and then tapped in a couple of beats. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Press record. Very exciting, huh? That's where production goes. Anyway, sometimes I just pencil them in as well, but in this case, these days I just find it easier to just draw them in or punch them in. It goes quicker than all the drawing. Just press Quantize so they're firm on the beat. I'm gonna lose this one. And then we have like a basis for the drums. Gonna add another channel, or maybe just duplicate. And then have a snare. Let's see. Gonna put it on loop already. Take it from the loop, of course. So, and then we go again. So next up, we're gonna add a hi-hat. I'm gonna tap that in quickly. So, like I said, very exciting stuff. I'm going to do Quantize again. Maybe I want to show you something because what we can do is, or what you often do in these kind of tracks, or with drums, you want to have it really tight. So you do the Quantize, and then it comes fixed on the grid, and then you will see that everything, you can see it over here. Each hit is like 100% on the grid. And so it's very fixed. What I often do is, for a lot of things, is that you sort of want to keep a little bit of a liveliness in it, and then you go to the Quantize panel and you just Quantize like only maybe 90%, and then you quantize, and then you will see that everything is not 100%. Here's one double on the grid, so you have a little bit of movement in there, a little bit of life, and that might help the overall of your track. It depends on what style you want to go for. You want to go really hard, or if you're making more lively reggae, this might be a thing to do, and maybe even have it a little bit more laid back, and then so you can see. Maybe I'll just move back to what I did for the original track, so you get the gist of this idea. I'm gonna quickly remove these. So I have this kick going, and then I have the snare going, the hi-hat, and here you can, I like to just quickly show. I might tap in stuff, but I'm not afraid to use the pencil tool, because as you can see here, I kind of wanted to make like a little bit of a wave on the bar, on each count of the bar, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I sort of want to have like a wavy movement on that, so that everything is not too fixed and too much like a metronome, and then the hits in between like a real drummer, more quiet, and add some extra ones. I can't play that on a keyboard, so I usually just paint that in so that you have a little bit of a movement the way you want to go, because, well, yeah, making grooves on a keyboard is, at least for me, impossible. Some other people might, but you don't have to let yourself hold back by rules or regulations. Just do your thing, you know. So that's what we have. You can also look here at the snare. I added like a extra snare hit after the main one, so that give it like a 1 repeat delay. I don't know why I did that back then, but I just felt like a good idea. And also I use 2 different snares. I often do that layering, because it's one thing you need to learn when you make music. Is a lot of people send me music and they use drum sounds, but they don't get their drum to sound very full because they don't know what to do, what type of EQ or compression. But also it might be the choice of sounds. You have to know sounds, but it's something you don't always get from the first moment. By working and by experience, you will learn this will need something. So in this case, you can hear this is a very high-end, high-up snare. If I would just play it for a moment, and you can hear them both together. And if I would take one out, you can hear it's very flimsy. Other way around, if I take the other one, it's a lot of low, but there's no high end, so it's not, if you would put it back in the mix, compared with the others, it doesn't stand out. So combined, they take the qualities what you need from a snare. So you have the snap and you have the body. Everything combined gives you, well, what I was looking for in this case. I might even, I haven't done this in this particular instance, but I might even do some EQ or processing on each individual snare. If I feel there's too much high in one that's interfering with the high that I've added, I might do a low cut or a high cut or whatever. So those are things that you can do. So let's get back to the rhythm or the drums, what we got going. And then I added a little bit of an extra snare. It's not really like a roll, but at the end of each 4 bars to sort of significant change and just fill in something more. So that's what we have. Afterwards, I added ting ting, some percussion, ting, ting ting. But if you look at it, or if you listen, the percussion at the beginning, the claves, if we pause it for a moment, you have 2 sounds that I used. These one work together with the snare as to make a little bit of a groove. So that's what you get going. Everything now still sounds very dry. Usually I would just go about and adding more or start playing chords on it, bass line and all that, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm just gonna continue with the drums and show you what I do for the processing of the drums to make them sound better. And then the next episode, because otherwise it's gonna be too long, I don't think you guys want to listen to me for a whole hour. So in the next episode, we'll talk about pianos and bass line and stuff like that. So one more thing before I move on how I mixed it. The original track was pretty straightforward, so just drums, no drum rolls and all that. For making it a more musical piece, I decided to add drum rolls, and because they sort of give you a sense of purpose and a sense of direction. So at the end of a verse, you have like duk, 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 poof, and then in your mind you will know there's a change coming. There's going to be a chorus from verse to chorus all the way around. Or in this case, I wanted to make like a little bit of a bombastic intro. So there's like a lot of drum rolls playing. I'll show you a little bit. You will hear it later on with other things that I added to make it more full. So that's a little bit what we've got going in the total. Then I export it to audio. Sometimes I leave it in MIDI, but here for this workshop, I just put everything into audio, and I've put the processing in there. What I want to mention though is everything you see here is on my studio laptop, is on my gigging laptop, because we're here in my studio though, but I decided everything for the workshop was there. So I do have a lot of processing on here, but a lot of stock VSTs from Cubase itself, and this is Cubase 10. In the studio I already switched to 12, so I use those to just show people that you can get a result with those, like already compared there. You can do already given and part of the standard Cubase, whether you use Ableton or Logic, all those things, there are already good tools in there. Because I do feel like, as I said before, you have to get to know the sounds, but you also have to get to know the tools you use. That's also progress. The way you work, you progress, and you learn how to play better. You learn how to hear better, how certain things should sound, but you also learn how to work with, for instance, compression. Will I explain a little bit further on? Because if you have big tools in front of you, doesn't necessarily mean you get a big sound if you don't know what to do with them. So that's why I just want to use these. And also in my studio computer, I have a lot of like universal audio stuff, which I'm showing you right here on this picture, that I can't use on the laptop because they're on a card and you can't use them in when the card is not there because it's fixed in my computer. Maybe a little bit technical explanation, but anyway. So let's get on. So I have my kick. You can already hear it's much powerful than the kick I had here. Okay. That's the kick like I played the sample. And now you can hear here there's a lot more oomph into the kick already. So what did I do with that? I use the transient master here a little bit. I'll explain that a little bit more later on with another example. But anyway, it's just putting in a little bit of attack makes it more oomph. I don't know if you can hear it properly if you're not on headphones. So there's a little bit more of a punch in there. I did a lot of EQ apparently, and I did some compression on there. This is so if I take those all gone, you can see there is less power on it, and if you take the EQ off, you will hear the kick as you heard it before, you know. So let's first start with the EQ. Usually when you mix, I already do some elements in the mix that I already treat from the default, because I have a bit of experience, I know what I want to do, so I start and I just start treating elements. But usually what you can do is just wait, make sure everything sits okay volume-wise, and then start doing equalization with everything in there. Here for this purpose, I will just show you element by element, otherwise it will get too complicated. So I took away the bottom end here, everything under the 40 Hertz I took away, so that doesn't really interfere with my sub from my bass, and also don't overpower the amps. I did some extra push here on the 50 Hertz, so that it will give enough bottom end and enough power there. I took away some of 230 Hertz because that was probably working against the low mid of the bass line, and the low mid in other things such as the organs and stuff like that. And then I added quite a bit of high, because if you take that away and you bring it back in, you can hear there's a lot of, even though you don't need high end in your kick, it does help to give it a little push there, because the high end makes it stand out in the mix, and it gives it like an extra oomph. If you, for instance, listen to Vibronics, if you listen to his kick, and when he's doing the mix and he just does only the kick drum, like in takes everything out and you just hear the kick, it even sounds like he's got a bit of a hi-hat on his layered in with his kick, but that's not the case. It's just he accentuates it a lot so that to make it really thump, and that's why you can add, well, why I add a lot of EQ here at 3000 and especially at the 7000 to get a good oomph on that kick. So I'm gonna show you again, and then I use some compression. I have another one here that also gives a little bit of a result. I know a lot of people, like for instance, I was talking to Russ Disciples, who is a bit of my mate and mentor over the years, and he hardly ever, or he doesn't find it necessary to use compression on a kick, for instance, because when you have a live drum, you will definitely need compression, but when you have digital sounds, you don't need it. But I kind of like the effect, and also sometimes you can tailor and your sound a little bit, like what they do a lot with hip hop. They add a lot of compression, so I learned that way, and I kind of like it. I'll show you the difference again. So you can hear a lot more snap because of the compression. So we have that's the kick, like it's put in the snare, and the hi-hat maybe already. So we're gonna focus on the snare. Again, what did I do with the snare? I took away the low end. Here I felt there was enough low going out with the normal EQ, so I used the second one to make sure that well, all the bottom end below 100 Hertz is not there, or around 100 Hertz, because you sort of don't really need that go in conflict with your kick. So, and then some EQ. Apparently everything I boosted here, I'm not gonna go over all these ones, it's just trial and error, or sometimes take away sounds, or take away frequencies to see what you want. In this case I did a lot of boosting though, and I've added in something that I really enjoy, a plugin that's a decapitator, which is kind of a saturation plugin, a distortion saturation. I use that quite a lot on a lot of sounds, and that's something I didn't do in the beginning, but after time you sort of start to learn how to use that. If you take it away, you can hear it's a lot more duller, but it's something you need to get to learn and to learn appreciate, because it's a subtle thing you do. If you go to extreme, it doesn't really sound, but if you take in a little bit or you take it out, it can like give a sheen, a shield on sheen, that's the word I was looking for, on top of your sound, to give it a little bit more grittiness and bring out artifacts. Also the decapitator has a really nice feature, which is the tone, and you can see dark, bright, so it really, if you take it dark, but you can really dial in some frequencies. I don't know how it really works, it's kind of an EQ that's in there, but it really works well. And also the low and the high cut can sometimes really help do things, and then you have different amps which have a different sound. It's all subtle though, so you have to learn to work with it. But if you look this one, I felt this one, the E, I don't remember for which amp it stands, work to its benefit. And then I did a little bit of compression. You can hear with compression and without. Compression is something that a lot of people know they need, but they don't really know, or when they begin with it, how to use it. So what does compression do? The word it says itself, it's like it compresses volume down. So if your snare goes over a certain threshold, I can maybe show it with this one. This one is very good for that. So you set in a threshold, and as soon as it goes over the threshold, it will compress, and then you have the value of how much you compress. You have the degree. If you put on 1, you don't compress at all. If you have 2, you as soon as 1 dB goes over, you will press it down double, 3 times, 4 times, and so on. So I'll show you. Yeah. So you have it goes over the threshold, and then it squeezes it down. But you use that, for instance, in a vocal. If a singer is la 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 la, and then suddenly she goes really loud, la, whatever. I'm not a singer. Then the compressor will take down the loudest parts and take him down, or vice versa. You can put it in the compressor and compress it hard, so that the parts who are low will come more even and sounding the same as they are as the more louder parts. So that's something why you use compression. Now, but you can also use it to tailor your sound a little bit. If I want to show you something here, this is the waveform of a snare, the snare sound like you have here, and you can see it's like a wave. You have the tail of the snare. And if you compress, what I said, you can use compression to bring in the quieter part more in line with the higher part. So if you would do extreme compression, what I did here, you can see you can really elevate the slope, the end of the snare, and bring that to the front. This is a bit extreme. You don't really do that unless you make like these very distorted, gritty beats. What I don't do in dub, but it was just to show you as an example. So maybe I can show you here as well. And you have the snare, and if you like really, yeah, of course it will make it louder, but it will also make it more thicker, you know. So I think I had that on 8. So let's leave it like that. Anyway, that's a little bit on compression. I hope you understand. If not, like I said, you can post comments, ask questions, and I'll try to respond them as good as I can, you know. So anyway, that's what we got going. Oh yeah, and of course we add a little bit of reverb. So more than often I will use a different reverb for my snare than I will use on the rest of the drums, because you kind of like, let's solo it again. You kind of like it to fill in the gap. But for instance, here I've got it on. You don't want it to be too much. You sort of want a little bit of reverb to give brilliance and give atmosphere to it, and also, well, yeah, just sound and clarity. That's what your reverb will do. But so this will be too much. So I had somewhere here. So we just want to add a little bit, you know. So if you look then at the hi-hat, there's also reverb on there. But like I said, I will use a different one because I made that one a lot shorter. And why do I do that? If I would take the other one, you will see it will clutter. The slope of the tail of the reverb will not have ended before the next hit of the hi-hat will come. And it will just make everything cloudy or I don't know the right word in English, muddy maybe. So if you take it back, you have your hi-hat, you have your sound. It makes, it's gone. If I mute it, it's better with reverb, but you just want it in moderation and not too much. So that's why I use a different tail of reverb on my on my hi-hat, yes, and then on my snare. Apologies, English is not my native language. I need to think about it a little bit. Anyway, again, I did some compression. Or actually, normally I didn't do this on this one. Let's first go. I used again Magneto, which is a kind of a different one than the decapitator, but it's a little bit of saturation again, 60%. So you can hear if I take it away and put it in there. It's subtle, but it's a little bit of well, yeah, it just brings a little bit more of quality to the sound. You can boost a high end, but I didn't feel it needed here, so I just left it. And besides, if you put here, there is like something in the frequency you put in this tool will also elevate it a little bit. But maybe that's a little bit too much detail for this workshop. So I didn't boost anything, just gave it saturation, so they brought it in to give it a little bit more quality to the sound and make it stand out. And just to show you for the compression, if you would add compression to here, you can hear now that the hits in between, who are more quiet, have come more to the front. That's what I used, what I told before. So you can, everything is more pronounced because you compress it, but also the less louder hits are louder. Don't know if you can hear the difference. Anyway, I don't feel it needs it in this occasion, so I'm gonna leave it out. So that's the hi-hats. Then the percussion. I had a sub snare. So with the percussion, I added some reverb again. And then again some saturation. Again, only the saturation itself, no boost in any way. And I did some compression to just slightly even out the sound of the claves, and so that they come nice and even. That's what I did. And then I had some bingies on it. The bingies are actually recycled from another project. You can see I sort of cut them up. Because I just, well, yeah, sometimes I reach out to players and ask them to, well, you pay them to play bingy, and then sometimes you might just use parts again in other projects, and you see you change up some parts to make it work for this track, because I felt bingy really works well for the music we make. So then we have the bingy going. A little bit of reverb. I took out the high, and you can take out some of the low frequencies, but I also took them out here with the low cut here, and I did a little bit of boost around 300 Hertz. See if you can hear it. For a lot of sounds like these percussive sounds or even organs, 300 Hertz, everything between 2 and 400 Hertz is like a very frequency where you can add some warmth to a sound. So that's why I added here, so to give it a little bit more body and some warmth. And of course I did a compression again to make it a little bit more even. It does boost a little bit here, so it makes it a little bit harder to hear why I used compression here. And then I used the transient designer here. The transient designer is a nice tool, which is like a little bit of an envelope. You can change your attack and you can change your sustain from a sound. So if you feel, for instance, on this one, that there is, if I take the sustain back, you can make like the sound more compact, and that can really help on a snare or a kick, and the attack will make it more attacking. So attack make more attacking, of course, Martin. But I mean, if you would look again on the snare here, so that would explain. If you have the attack, if you don't use a transient designer, the sound will start here and it will just go. And if you will elevate the attack, then it will sort of start here He will not let pass through, will not let the first part of the sound pass through, and he will sort of make sure that the attack that you only start here. And in some occasions that might mean more snap, because that you have like the slope of your sound comes in, and that you make it start just a fraction late, and that might give you a little bit more of a more punchier sound. And with the sustainer, I said, then it will move up and sort of cut it off sooner. Like I can show you that in the that's already a bit of a detailed thing, but if we go to let's see, we have this snare, and so you can take away the attack, or you can do like the attack here. You can see I will over exaggerate, so, or you can like have the attack, and then if you take away the sustain on the transient designer, then it will shorten your sound. That's a little bit what it does here. It's a little bit like the envelope, but it's like a tool in itself. It was a original vintage box, like a unit, and it's something that I use, and it might help. And in this case, if I look back at here, let's have the bingy again. So I just felt, here it sounds nice when it's short, but if you want to give it more body, it makes it fuller and richer. It sustained it, so it sort of prolongs the sound a little bit. And I felt it worked for here. Usually I will take away, but in this case I extend it. And at the Reggae Geel workshop I was talking about a little bit about the effects that you can use, and because of the bingy already sounds a little bit metallic, I had a suggestion you can use flanger, and a guy here in Antwerp who's also producing a little bit released his first track, and he was, oh, you were talking about the flanger, I didn't know it, and I used it on my hi-hat, I really liked it, so thanks for the tip. So you can use a flanger, so it gives a little bit more robotic sound and makes the metally parts come more alive. So it's an idea. So, and then we have the drum rolls that come in. Again, the same thing, a little bit of reverb. I took away, let's just move a little bit to the front. Whoop. So I took away a little bit of the low mid, 144, no, about 300. I boosted a little bit more so it would have some punch on the snares, on the toms actually, and again on the highs so they would really come through. And then add a little bit of a, so let's put it here. So some distortion, but also here I added a little bit of high because I felt it could use it to make it stand out. EQ is quite elaborate, and then of course some compression to sort of get everything tied together so that the snare or the toms itself have a good full body, you know, and then together with the kick. Let's take away the flanger, it's a little bit too much. So and that's the full track, but the other parts we will talk about in the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed this one already, and hope to see you again.